It is time once more for us to don our aprons, sharpen our knives, and prepare our sweet teeth for the newest installment of the Culinary Crucible, Confection Perfection. We've got 2 new cards, 9 new recipes, and a whole lot of strategy to share, so let's get started. If you don't yet know how to play or would like a refresher, I've got this guide which goes over the event series as a whole in much more detail that I'd recommend you watch first, especially if you're new to the Culinary Crucible. There's a lot of good information in there about how to spend your time, plan out your actions, and maximize your token yield, all of which is relevant to all events in the series, including this one. The video you're currently watching, however, is focused specifically on the details of Confection Perfection and assumes you're already familiar with the general strategies presented in the general guide. So if you want the full gastronomic experience, I'd recommend watching that one first, then coming back here. But I'm not your mom, so do what you want. Now then, this crucible is going to function just like all the past ones with the gameplay loop of get food, cook food, score food. That said, what kind of food can we expect? Given that the theme this time centers around confections, our main ingredient is sugar, so we'll be whipping up quite a few fancy desserts. The first of which is classic. You know it, you probably love it. Chocolate cake, which we can make with sugar, cacao, flour, and egg. Next up, another popular dish, macarons, which are made with sugar, almond, and egg. We've also got a slightly healthier dessert of fruits terrine, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing right, but you can make it with sugar, fruit, and gelatin. There's also riz à la lot, a very fancy rice pudding that I could also not be pronouncing correctly, but it is made with sugar, rice, and milk. We've also got my personal favorite dish in this list, red bean soup, which is made with sugar, rice, and beans. We've got an American classic up next with apple pie, made with sugar, fruit, and pie crust. This beauty of a meringue cake is made with sugar, fruit, and egg. My second favorite dish in this list is the almond pudding, which is made from sugar, almond, egg, and milk. Last, but certainly not least, avocado choco mousse, which can be made from the most ingredients of sugar, avocado, cacao, gelatin, and milk. Looking at them all together, we've got a wonderful lineup of different tastes and textures, and most of our recipes also aren't ingredient intensive. We only have 1 5, 2 4, and everything else is 3. So depending on how our ingredients are spread across the excursions, we should have a decent starting dish, which we can figure out pretty easily once we've got the spread constructed. So let's take a look at our cooking priorities. Here we have our lovely ingredient spread. The columns show which excursions have what ingredients, and the rows show the recipe requirements. For our day 1 priority, we'll have to start narrowing down our recipe list by eliminating recipes that aren't actionable. Since the last 2 excursions are always locked behind a token requirement at the start, any recipes that require those ingredients are immediately crossed off our list. From here, we'll look at recipes that only require 2 total excursions, if any exist, which in this case, they do not. But there is an excursion that none of our remaining recipes need, so we can mark that off. Now, since all our remaining recipes need ingredients from both of these excursions, we now have to look at our ingredient drop rate to determine the optimal recipe. Out of all of these ingredients, fruit and eggs recur most. So if we target recipes that need them, we should do all right. Macarons need egg but not fruit. Fruit terrine and apple pie are the opposite. But meringue cake needs both. So that'll be the recipe we should be focusing on. While we get eggs and fruit, we'll also be picking up some amount of almond, gelatin, and pie crust. So we'll still be able to cook the other three recipes. We'll just likely be able to cook more meringue cakes compared to anything else. Now later on, once we've unlocked the ranch, we'll be sitting in a very unique position. This is the first time in a culinary crucible that an ingredient besides the main one is isolated in its own excursion. Meaning, if you go to the ranch, you are 100% guaranteed to receive milk and only milk, which means you don't have to fight RNG or worry about drop rates for two ingredients in this culinary crucible. If we now look at the recipes that require milk, we can see that 2 of the 3 need 2 extra excursions, while 1 doesn't. Riz al Lot requires rice, which has the highest drop rate in its grouping. So in theory, focusing our later game efforts on Riz al Lot could make us a great deal of tokens with very little effort. Extra almonds and eggs from meringue stock can also be used with any extra milk to create almond pudding. And if we haven't used up our extra gelatin yet, we could shift to avocado mousse too if we're getting tired of rice. But I'd recommend sticking with Riz al Lot, almond pudding, and meringue cake as our 3 champion recipes, with Riz al Lot being our late game priority. So now that we have our core recipes and our cooking order, we're set up well for token farming. Once we've got a good number of tokens saved up, we might be tempted to spend them on that free SR card. So who do we have this time? From Pomfiore, we have Vil, posing beautifully as always, with a jar of fruit jelly or preserves. I'm not quite sure which it is. But he's fabulous regardless. If you're a big Vil fan, this might be the card for you. But if not, you might want to consider its stats before spending your tokens. Vil is an attack type card, so his power stat is prioritized. And while at level 1 his stats are lacking, once fully maxed and groovied, they're not so bad. This card's spells are Water with Water Shot and Cosmic with Void Shot 2, and these also offer some interesting battle utility. Water Shot provides freeze immunity, and Void Shot gives Vil a power boost. So ideally in battle, you'd use Void Shot first, then Water Shot in the same turn to make the most use out of both. Now, if you're not completely sold or you're not in the market for having a heavy hitter, fear not, because we've also got the wonderfully confident Jack, cooking up a storm with his colander. Contrasting Vil, Jack is a defense type card, so his stats prioritize HP. Similarly though, his starting stats are lackluster compared to his fully maxed out groovy numbers. This card's spells are Flora with Forest Strike and Fire with Fire Shot 2. And Jack's got some interesting utility as well. He can give a power boost to his allies or to himself, depending on which spell you use. So ideally in battle, these would be used separately to maximize their effects. I think both of these cards are pretty neat in their own regards, so picking between them is going to be tough. There is a limited time banner where both are available. However, that requires using your precious gems and keys. If you're going for the free route, you can only get one of the two, which is a dilemma for sure. If I had to choose, I would pick Jack for no other reason than his groovy art, which is superb. I highly recommend it. But if you're planning on getting both like I am, I recommend summoning in the limited time banner first to see what RNG has in store. That way you can then pick up the card you didn't get for free in the event shop later, guaranteeing you get both. Even if you don't care about either card, it can still be worth picking one of them up for free, as having either or both in your excursion party will get you bonus ingredients. It's not much, but it's still better than nothing, so try to get these cards as early as you can if you're planning on getting them at all. So now that we know which recipes to cook and who to pick, there isn't much left to do besides play the event. But before you go, I want to briefly go over a couple tips and general reminders that should help you reach culinary greatness. Don't forget that time winders are an option if you're short on time or you want just a little bit of extra help. Try to clear as many of the missions as you can, since these can get you time winders, gems, and tokens. Keep in mind that you don't have to reach 100% skill proficiency to reach 3 stars, so it is quite feasible to get all of these missions within a single crucible. Also, you're gonna want to turn on app notifications and make sure that you set up the excursion completion notifications when you send your team out. These are very important because, again, everything is time-based, so you want to be able to, if you can, get those excursions back to back. On that note, though, if you have an Android phone and you want notifications, you not only have to turn notifications on, but you also have to turn power saving mode off. If you do not turn power saving mode off, Twisted Wonderland will not be able to push notifications to your phone. This not only includes Culinary Crucible notifications, but your lesson point refreshes, guest room notifications, pretty much anything related to the app will not be able to get pushed through your phone, or sometimes, like with the birthday notifications, it will get pushed through way late in the day, or even the day after. And with that, I hope that you have a very merry and productive Culinary Crucible. If you found this helpful, please let me know with a like or a comment, or maybe even a subscribe. And if you would like me to continue making guides like these, please let me know in the comments as well. And before you go, I would like to remind you that you're amazing, and I hope you have a wonderful day.